It's not my job to be likable. It's my job to be myself, and the right people will gravitate.
Hey darlings, I wasn't intending to make content today. There is just too much going on, and it's been a minute, and I wanted to just say a couple of things quickly, and I'm going to hard words and soft words. Hard words first. Over the past 5 years, we've learned so much, and we have done so little about what we have learned. We have, at points, reached some kind of period where we thought there was going to be a mass movement, right? The 2020 movement, the George Floyd uprising, we thought that was going to be it, and it wasn't. Why? Because a lot of y'all gave up. Y'all gave up on COVID. Y'all gave up on all the ways that we need to protect each other. And why are we here where we are now? That's why. That's why. Because yes, it's the billionaires. Yes, it's the society. Yes, it's the system. But we're part of the system. We are the ones that run the engines. We're the ones that give it the power it needs to run. So when the system isn't working, that means that we are shirking some kind of really important duty to ourselves, to each other, to the world, to all of it. We've been stuck in particular ideologies, in particular groups, in particular things that are going to matter, and ignoring a lot of the foundational stuff, ignoring things like the 13th Amendment and the land back movement, which, not for nothing, we would not have these fires if indigenous people had in control of the land. That's exactly. This is not just sloganeering. This is stuff that we actually need to do if we want to continue to have a world to live on. Whatever your stated ideology, everything, conservative, liberal, socialist, communist, whatever your stated ideology, we can't forget that we're all Americans. And there's some way that we capitulate to American, capitalist, misogynist, racist society every day. And a lot of us, we do it because we have to survive. I get that. But we do capitulate in ways that we don't need to. It has become a habit. Surrender has become a habit. And now we are seeing that capitalism always does lead to fascism. And here we are. And now the soft words. They really accidentally let the genie out of the bottle when they let us communicate like this through social media. Because, again, in the past 5 years, we've all learned so much about each other and about the world. And we have that knowledge. We might not be acting on it, but we have it. And we can act on it. And I believe that we will. Because we're seeing now it's getting more and more to the point where we realize we have no choice. And most of us, especially at these moments of acute crisis, you see how most people are actually okay. It's the stress and the systems and the constant crushing pressure to compete with people around you when that's just not our nature. You are a wiser and stronger person than you were 5 years ago. That's just true. If you've made it to now, you have learned so much and you have grown a lot. As we respond to the fires and the complete change to just about everything that it's going to leave, because LA's a major city. It's part of the beating heart of this country. The waves of this are going to ripple out all around the world, actually, And we often forget that a disaster, the moment of a disaster, that's only the beginning. It's going to be a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe never, that some people will rebuild their lives from this. But we are learning right now that we are the only ones we have. That mutual aid and building parallel systems is the only way that this is going to work. And this time, when we build them, we don't drop them. Remember all the food fridges that were going up all around the country? Bring that back, right? The infinity gardens that I'm growing and I'm encouraging everyone else to grow. Plan to grow something this year. Right? There is so much that we can do because as the system itself collapses, a lot of people are afraid that there is going to be more chaos. And yes, in some places there will be, but a lot of it's actually going to be people getting to be in community and in relation to each other in ways that we have been blocked from, that we saw a little bit of in some ways during some parts of the lockdown era of the pandemic, which is still ongoing, by the way. Please stop living for a world that doesn't exist anymore. And the world that's right in front of us is a better one, and one where we get to actually live authentically, be the people that we are intended to be, that we want to be, explore the world and each other as we wish, and even have community with the people around you in ways that are genuine. where you actually know and care about the people around you, because it matters. You don't have to come up with any of the strategies by yourself. They're all out there. There are many, many, many wise people already doing a lot of that work. Find your people, find them online and find them offline, find them everywhere, right? Because you might need to know somebody who lives halfway across the country for one reason or another, be it climate change, be it the shifting tides, be it, right-wing hate. You never know. So do organize locally, but don't forget that all of these connections, like the one we have right now, parasocial or not, these are real connections. They have changed our lives. You have changed my life, and I hope that I have in some way changed yours. We can do this. It's not going to be easy, but we can do this. And what's more, we don't have any choice.
I don't think some of y'all appreciate enough the fact that I'm not a vengeful person.
On the 1967 urban riots, violent they certainly were. But the violence, to a startling degree, was focused against property rather than against people. And within the genus of violent acts, this makes all the difference. A life is sacred. Property is intended to serve life, and no matter how much we surround it with rights and respects, it has no personal being. Why were the rioters so violent with property then? Because the property represents the white power structure, which they were attacking and trying to destroy. Wow!
All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do, all you had to do, all you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do, all you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough. All you had to do. All you had to do. Just pay us enough to live. All you fucking had to do. Pay us enough to live. All you had to do. Not eat kids. All you had to do. Let black people. All you had to do was not suck all the fucking water out from under us and sell it back to us. All you had to do. Pay us enough. All you had to do. Pay us enough. To live. 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 To live, to live. All you had to do is pay us enough to live. All you had to do, was pay us enough to live. All you had to do, all you had to do, pay us enough to live. All you had to do. Pay us enough. All you had to do is pay us enough to live. All you had to do is pay us enough to live. All you had to do. Pay us enough to live. All you had to do is pay us enough to live. All you had to do. 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 All you had to do was pay us enough. Was pay us enough. Was all you had to do. That's all you had to do. Just pay us enough to live. All you had to do is pay us enough to live. All you had to do. All you had to do. All you had to do. All you had to do is pay us enough to live. Remember, all you had to do was pay us enough to live.
Well, folks, happy Monday. I sure hope your past week was better than mine, though if not, I'm sorry, and that's totally understandable considering the current circumstances. Now we are in one of those very busy astrological weeks with a ton of transits going on, so I'm going to try to keep this as concise as possible. There are definitely some big challenges on the horizon, but we also have a lot of potential here. We have a refreshing new moon in Aries. We have Mercury finally getting out of Pisces after so fucking long. And we're wrapping up this week. Let's take a look here at Monday, April 13th. Early this morning, we had a Venus sextile to Jupiter from 16 degrees of Taurus to 16 degrees of Cancer. And there's a lot to like with a Venus-Jupiter sextile. This transit stimulates expansion of everything having to do with Venus, meaning everything relational. So maybe you're recalibrating your values, checking in on your finances, getting a boost of creativity, or just recharging with a little glimmer of pleasure. Most importantly, this transit is an opportunity to shore up connections. Y'all, we need each other so fucking badly right now with everything that's going on. And this Venus-Jupiter sextile gives us a chance to reaffirm our bonds, to deepen our relationships, to solidify community, to make sure our networks of support are in place. And this can help to bring us some of that grounded stability of Taurus and the nurturing safety of Cancer, which we could obviously really use these days and this week specifically. And the moon also moved into compassionate, dreamy, spiritual Pisces early this morning as well. Now, tomorrow, Tuesday, April 14th, is a Mercury kind of day. First of all, we'll have Mercury forming a sextile to Uranus from the last half degree of Pisces to the last half degree of Taurus. You may remember Mars doing the same thing last week. And this is another supportive transit which can liberate our minds. It can help us to think for ourselves and communicate more authentically. Tuesday could be a good day for organizing, for example, or for learning a new skill. As revolutionary planet Uranus wraps up its 7-year stay in Taurus ending next week, it's really pressing us to carefully consider our foundational values. And Mercury's last hours in Pisces remind us of the value of compassion, interconnectedness, creativity, and spirituality. Now, since this fast-moving planet is right at the end of its sign, tomorrow evening, Mercury will move into Aries, completing a lap around the zodiac and adding yet another planet to this intense pileup of Aries energy. So we'll have the Sun, eventually the Moon, Mercury, Mars, Chiron, Saturn, and Neptune all in Aries. Now, Mercury usually only spends a few weeks in each sign, but because it went through a retrograde in Pisces, Mercury has been in the sign of the fishes since early February, which is a long-ass time for this planet. So, I'm hoping that the lack of clarity, the communication struggles, the mental soupiness and fogginess will kind of burn off as Mercury finally enters the sign of the Ram. This is such a powerful time to use our voices. Don't disempower yourself by assuming your voice is meaningless or that no one will listen to you. At least try to speak up for yourself and for what you believe in, because we can really, really amplify each other's voices right now. And I do like how this transit is coming on the heels of that sextile to Uranus, which echoes some of that mental courage and revolutionary curiosity of Mercury in Aries. But of course, this transit also means that we might experience even more of the anger and aggravation of Aries in terms of the information that we encounter. We may waste our energy getting into pointless arguments. We may perceive everything around us as a crisis or a threat. And to be fair, there are a lot of them out there right now. So we are really going to need to ramp up our discernment in terms of which battles are worth fighting with all this Aries energy, okay? Then on Wednesday, April 15th, the moon will also move into bold, brave Aries on its way toward that new moon on Friday. But before then, we have Thursday, April 16th, which is a very intense day. So first, the sun has now moved toward the end of Aries, and so it'll be meeting up with Chiron, the wounded healer, forming a conjunction at about 26 degrees. This transit will put a big old spotlight on our pain, our suffering, our wounds. Great. But, you know, this really reflects all of the harm and hurt that we're experiencing with the conflict and war and struggle of this Chiron and Aries era. We live in a capitalist society full of existential threats, a society that tries to make most of us feel like we don't deserve to thrive or even frickin' survive in this world that we were born into. That is a Chiron and Aries wound right there. So this Chiron and Aries journey is about bravely feeling past those scars of cynicism to reconnect with that spark of life that so many of us have lost touch with, that will to live and be free and fight to create the life we want for ourselves. So Thursday is a day to look into Chiron's toolkit. Avail yourself of any ways you have access to heal or soothe or care for those wounds, to expose them to the sun's light and warmth, to air them out and let them scab over, right? And while we're already engaging with that pain, we can try to alchemize it, to see what we can learn from it, how we can connect and empathize with others who are having similar experiences, because so many of us are right now, and that is powerful. Next up on Thursday, Mars will have moved to 5 degrees of Aries, and so it'll form a sextile to Pluto, which is crawling through 5 degrees of Aquarius. This transit is all about courage, you might not be surprised to hear me say. Mars is the warrior planet of bravery and risk, while Pluto is the planet of deep emotional courage, of vulnerability in life and death. So with these two hyping each other up, especially with Mars in its home sign of Aries, we can access more bravery. And the signs of Aries and Aquarius stimulate each other because both of them want freedom and liberation. Pluto in Aquarius means that there's this deep revolutionary undercurrent flowing through our world right now. And with Mars and Aries contacting that undercurrent, we can tap into that energy and act on it. We can challenge power structures and the state monopoly on violence. Whatever we do with this energy, it's a chance to bravely tackle our most urgent life or death priorities. Finally, here on Thursday evening, Mercury will have reached 2 degrees of Aries, and so it'll cross paths with Neptune in the form of a conjunction. This is almost like a last hurrah of that long journey of Mercury through Pisces that I was talking about, because Neptune is Pisces' ruling planet, right? So Thursday is a chance to make sure that we integrate the mental lessons of the last couple months, the compassion, intuition, spiritual connection, the dreams and visions for a better world that we were nurturing throughout all that Pisces energy. That said, Mercury conjunct Neptune, this is likely to be another tough transit because it can mean brain fog, mental confusion, wanting to just check out and escape from reality or from our feelings of anxiety. And in Aries, we can add some of that hot irritation and frustration into the mix, not hot in a good way, unfortunately, probably. So Thursday is a day to keep grounding yourself, to try to patiently take care of yourself and others, and to maintain clear boundaries around the media you consume, around the thoughts you let yourself ruminate on, and around the way that you communicate with others. Okay, on the morning of Friday, April 17th, we have our next new moon with the sun and moon meeting up at about 27.5 degrees of Aries, which is less than a degree away from our old buddy Chiron. That's right, Chiron is right up in the mix of this new moon. So this is a chance for an emotional fresh start around the themes that have been coming up this week with Chiron and with this whole glut of Aries planets. This is an opportunity to refresh our energy, to get grounded in our bodies, to get in touch with that vital spark I was talking about, to stoke the fires of bravery, audacity, assertiveness, action, risk, and desire, all these Aries things. As a cardinal fire sign, Aries teaches us how to take initiative, how to rise to the challenge, how to just fucking do the thing without hesitating or overthinking it. So those are the seeds we're planting here. And I think this new moon is an important opportunity to reclaim self-love, past all of the guilt and shame and self-doubt and wounding of Chiron. Because we live in this toxic, hyper-individualistic society, right? Which means that we all have a complicated relationship with the self. Some of us have been conditioned to be very selfish and short-sighted, basically to embody the pitfalls of Aries. That's kind of what privilege looks like in our society. And seeing how much damage that mindset does, many of us become afraid of embracing and advocating for our individual selves. We become disempowered and disconnected from ourselves. But remember, the overculture doesn't want you to advocate for yourself. Capitalism doesn't profit from you loving yourself. we're taught to hate ourselves and to mirror that hatred onto others. But this Aries new moon is a powerful chance to reclaim the self-love that we're all naturally born with and to reflect that onto others. Not an either me or you, but a both and, right? And since that Aries new moon occurred at the end of its sign, the moon will then move into steady, sensual, sensible Taurus just a few hours later on Friday. Now, on Saturday, April 18th, Mercury will continue chasing after Mars like it's been doing, and it'll form its own sextile to Pluto from 5 degrees of Aries to 5 degrees of Aquarius. This blends well with the other transits of the week because a Mercury sextile to Pluto can help us to face challenging truths and to talk about them more easily, tapping into that Aries courage. This can help us to think more deeply about power, revolution, transformation. As Pluto stimulates our curiosity, we can keep working on that balance of staying informed about what's going on in the world without getting too distracted, overwhelmed, or paralyzed, which is going to help with the last challenging transit of the week that I'm about to get to. So, finally, for this week, on Sunday, April 19th, first the moon will move into quick, curious, conversational Gemini, and then Mars will form a conjunction to Saturn at just under 8 degrees of Aries. Yet again, we are ending this week on hard mode, folks. This is a challenging ass transit that astrologers have been bracing themselves for a while. See, Mars takes about 2 years to orbit around the zodiac, so it meets up with slowboat Saturn pretty regularly, but this is the first time it's happened in Mars's home sign of Aries since 1998, if you can believe it, over 28 years ago. So when Mars meets up with Saturn in Aries, shit will get even more real than it already fucking is. I'm sorry to say. You might feel like your energy or drive is just really dampened. There's a sense of hopelessness and despair you might experience. We may need to make hard choices and challenging sacrifices. We may need to set tough boundaries or deal with difficult restrictions. Things can get risky when conflictual active Mars meets up with stoic limiting Saturn, because when you're doing dangerous things while being really tense and rigid, you're likely to hurt yourself, right? So on Sunday, we need to remember to stay flexible, to bend rather than break, while still not compromising our most important goals, while trying to embody integrity and really focus on the task at hand, no matter how hard it is in the moment. That's Mars meeting up with Saturn for you. Now, I'm happy to say that the last transit of the week is one of my very favorite ones. I'm talking about the start of Taurus season, the sun moving into the sign of the bull here on Sunday evening. Now, one of the pitfalls of Taurus is being stubborn, conservative, not open to change. So that lesson I just mentioned about staying adaptable will continue with us through Sunday and for this whole coming month. But that stubbornness of Taurus, the fixed earth sign, can also be used for good. The sign of the bull can teach us to stand our ground, resting on our firm foundation of values, which is a big Taurian concept, right? And I think a lot of the problems we're facing right now as a society are really Taurus problems. Greedy people willing to destroy the planet for profit are experiencing a very twisted version of Taurian materialism, you could say. Conservative people, terrified of change or social progress, are experiencing a dark, twisted Taurian fear. And all of us who are longing for a time of simplicity, stability, sustainability, serenity, groundedness, connection to nature, and the peace to just enjoy the small, simple pleasures of life, we're longing for that higher frequency of Taurus. Some people are more misguided about what that can look like than others, of course. I'm not talking about going back to a time of arguably even worse oppression than we're experiencing right now. But as we shift into Taurus season, I'll just say, take Logan's advice and do some work in a garden. Connect with your people, with your animal friends, with the land you live on. Make sure you have access to basic necessities come what may. Shore up your foundations, because we're going to need them. And remember to make room for a little bit of sustaining, nourishing pleasure along the way, because that's a big part of Taurus too. Whew, okay, that is it for your astrological weather report for this week. I'm Alice Pope. Logan, back to you.
wasn't flirting. I'm naturally adorable. If you have a problem with that, take it up with God.
Hello everyone, it is time for another little Infinity Garden update, and given everything that's happening, I just wanted to, in addition to showing you what's going on right now, just remind you that the best thing about a container garden is how portable it is. Without having to name any of the particular catastrophes that are going on, and that is a target-rich environment, I'm sure you can imagine how it could be useful to be able to move your entire garden if you needed to. And just remember, right about now, it's an emergency time, so anything you can do is better than nothing. Do whatever you can for whomever you can. So you know how they say it's easier to get forgiveness than it is to get permission? Not from me.
Well, hello, and welcome to Lara Listens, our weekly delve into my vinyl collection. As you know, we should be saving vinyl because we need to have physical media, because we can't trust any of these streaming services, etc., etc. You know the spiel. You know the spiel by now. We're gonna go right to it because we've got a lot more to show you. Hope you've been enjoying yourself so far. Please do share the stream. Remember to click like, subscribe if you haven't, share with a friend, do the whole thing. We're going to start right off with, boom. Well, what is this? I believe this is Mère de Noms by A Perfect Circle. Now, if you know, you know, but the lead singer of A Perfect Circle is Maynard, who was the lead singer of Tool, which, fucking great band, like, sure. But A Perfect Circle was Maynard, kicking it down a little bit, because Tool was a lot. There's a lot of math rock. It was very heavy. It was very intense, amazing. But when he came to A Perfect Circle, it's more listenable for the average person who's not really that into heavy music. Even though they still rip. They still go so hard on this album. But he also gets to just play with his voice and sing and he's got such a great voice. Tool, he was younger and brasher and doing a lot of the really pushing himself to the edges in terms of like, you know, artistically and doing just a lot of like wild stuff, you know. But in A Perfect Circle, it was kind of more like him being like, I want to be in a band and make music where I get to sing and still keep a lot of the sensibilities of Tool, but do it in a way that is more like accessible to more different people. Really, really great album. The back of it, now I love that they always, Tool and A Perfect Circle, obviously the in the back, they've got all the things in, of course, A Perfect Circle. And here's the inside of it as well. Let's do that so you can see the whole thing. There we go. Yeah, just a really, really fantastic band. I think the songs that you may have heard from this are The Hollow, maybe Orestes. Brenia is one that you might have heard. Sleeping Beauty, maybe. But my favorite song on the album is 3 Libras. And it's just a fantastic, fantastic song. They always, whether it's Tool or A Perfect Circle, there's a lot of magical symbolism imbued. There's a lot of like, you know, deeper stuff. There's so many Easter eggs. The more you, I love music where the more you look, the more there is to find. Where there is stuff in there that you will absolutely miss the first time around, whether it's in the art, whether it's in the music itself, the liner notes, whatever it is, where you can just keep digging and going deeper. 3 Libras and no one is making decisions. I'm highlighting that because hilarious, absolutely hilarious. Orestes, I don't get it. If you know, you know. So really, you should check this album out. It's a fucking amazing album. And I think that you will enjoy it, even if, again, if you feel like heavy rock music or metal or whatever is not your thing. It's got a sweetness to it, and the way that he sings is really pretty. And the lyrics are also pretty, even when they're dark. The song Orestes, actually. Please check out Orestes. I think that's where you'll really be able to see kind of what I mean when I talk about like the singing style and the connection to Tool. So yes, Mère de Noms by A Perfect Circle. Get into it, babes. Get into it. And next we have The Hazards of Love by the Decemberists. Now, do y'all know the Decemberists? I don't know if you know the Decemberists, but they they make such I forgot the name of the lead singer, Colin something or other. Anyway, he is such a great lyricist, like highly verbose, like hyperlexic. I'm thinking, you know, whenever I hear like hyperlexic lyricists, I'm like, are you in the neurodivergent squad as well? I'm wondering, like who plays with words that much than we neurodiverse types. But anyway, this album though, unlike the other ones, it's a few things. First of all, it's like one long song. It's a fairy tale set to music, and it's the story of this this like shape-shifting creature. Its power to turn into into like a deer, a stag, a doe, a fawn, and his mother is the queen of the forest, and she has got some real unfortunate tendencies towards him, and then he meets his lover and they have a child, and that's all the good stuff that happens. And in a fairy tale, whenever a bunch of good stuff happens in the beginning, it's not going anywhere good. It's just not going anywhere good. And there's like different themes. I don't know if y'all know Peter and the Wolf by, I think Peter and the Wolf is Prokofiev, but anyway, one of the cool things about Peter and the Wolf is that there's different instruments that reappear when each different character appears, and it's not exactly that in this because they use all the instruments for all the characters, but each character has like a little musical theme that returns when they return. And I actually have thought so many times that this would make such an excellent like stage play. A staging of this would be so great. The back of it's very simple, just the the four records And inside here is the lyrics and the Decemberists. The the main character, though, has to be the world's worst negotiator. That when you listen to it, you'll know what I mean. These hazards of love nevermore will trouble us. The very last song, which is tremendously sad. Like, by the time you get there, if you're the type of person that will cry at art, it will probably happen, because you go through this whole journey and a lot of bad stuff happens to the main characters. It's not great. And it has that kind of theme of, you know, the gods, those with great power, playing with the lives of those who don't have it. You know, it's really, but thematically it's strong, musically it's strong, and it's even if you know whatever kind of music you like, you could get into this as like a piece of art, a standalone piece of art. Just again, you kind of need to listen to it start to finish to hear the entire fairy tale. You know, there's capture, trigger warning for SA and for murdering of innocence, let's say. But a fantastic album, and I think, relatively speaking, little known. There's some Decemberist hits. Severed, I think, is a recent one that was a little bit different than their usual stuff. But Severed is one that you might have heard more recently. I mean, I love the Decemberists in general, but this is my favorite work of theirs, because who makes fairy tales to music? I mean, other than, well, Coheed and Cambria, who we'll get into actually very soon, but it's more of a sci-fi epic, not a fairy tale. But yeah, this is a great album, The Hazards of Love by the Decemberists. Babes, get into it. And that is a short and sweet Lara Listens for you. And now, on to our next segment.
So you know how they say it's easier to get forgiveness than it is to get permission? Not for me.
Back at base, in the summer, 99 dreams I have had, never one regular. Some of them standing pretty in this dust. There was a city if I could find a souvenir just to prove the world is here. In this record, I think of you, let it go.
I don't want to turn this into a competition, but like, I win.
Like that, keep it a stack. Bitches move on cause they know I got beans.
Hey darlings, just wanted to give you a little glimpse of my everyday outfit and some of the things I carry with me, like these masks. They are the KN95 ones, but the ones with the ear loops that tighten so they get a tight fit, just in case anyone wants one. Also, in case someone needs a snack, I keep just some of these random food bars on me that I can just hand over to someone. And of course, shout out to Philoprint for the Black Panthers shirt. Have a great day.
I'm very sorry and I apologize for the inconvenience of me not giving up.
Those who rely on pulpits or headlines to form entire systems of belief have, in short, been hollowed out. In their dens of comfortable anonymity, they need authority, disaster, and spectacle to be swayed in any direction, to know left from right, but still walk this earth devoid of light inside them, beyond that which is reflected from an external source. In the cave, shadows still bring solace to those whose eyes are softened and no longer seek far from their own noses for the truth. Spectacles involving pity have, in particular, like clockwork, been used to strategically shift public sympathy, only at the whim of empirical force. Often without warning and swinging towards disgust, never with tangible impact on the fleeting subjects of pity themselves. Echoing, "Think of the children," but look away as we allow monsters to roam and systematically devour their futures. To both navigate tenuous social dynamics and dismiss the act of disengaging from others entirely, this cookie-cutter populace has been conditioned to view the other with cost-benefit analysis and through a limited range of acceptable projected emotions. Feelings become facts, become evidence in an internal court case where others are quickly sentenced into unmoving cells of judgment. And yet, out of the spotlight, movements, collective groups of healing human beings who know who they are and what they need to survive, whether trending or not, have always existed and will continue to remain. When it comes to survival, true and unadulterated, one must always make movements, actions, hard choices outside of what is fit to televise. Survival at its core is grasping, clinging, struggle to maintain a solid claim to one's humanity, declaring out of range of news interviews, sound bites, or memes, not for publicity, clicks, or clout, we the people deserve to exist. Simply for being born, we have the right to be here, to be counted, to matter. Our ancestors, the earth, water, and the stars have been trying to tell us, and it's time we catch up. Intergenerational, interspecies, communal networks of care are our best options to survive. So look for the helpers, the givers, and the lovers without conditions. Look for the ones who don't demand a price of equal or greater value to their care. Behold and become them. Become us. For our mission, should we choose to step up, is clear. We must stop being distracted by their expensive, extractive spectacle. We must let go of the dream they packaged and sold. We must remember, imagine for ourselves, and build anew. It's all of us or none of us.
Come on, let's go with these nice white fellows. What's the worst that could happen? Here's your Infinity Garden update. We are in the middle of August. I believe it's the 19th. And this is what the garden looks like right now. I just finished doing a harvest and I wanted to share that with you after just giving you a little glimpse of what it looks like. A little messy but flourishing. And here is today's harvest. As you can see, I've got pretty much everything the garden has to offer on here. We've got the volunteers here, the lamb's quarters, and there's some purslane under here. And then we have the mint, we have tomatoes at various stages. We've got the herbs over here. We've got sage, we've got rosemary, we've got also basil. We've got some cucumbers, these long boys here, and a white eggplant, some sweet potato leaves, and the ever-present kale.
Well, thank you for joining us for the 19th episode of the Focused on Infinity Hour, more or less. I am so glad to have gotten to share another week with you all. I'm so grateful to you for continuing to join us and seeing what the next thing we dream up is. We're gonna just keep doing more. We've got plenty of ideas. We haven't even begun. We're still, now that we've kind of worked the kinks out of things, now we can actually play. And a lot of what this is about is play. This episode is called Resistance is Fertile, and there was a lot of garden content because I really, really need y'all to start growing stuff. Whatever it is, grow anything. Grow anything, right? We are in an active state of collapse and building. It always happens at the same time, right? The empires collapse all the time. It happens. But it's not the end of the world. People keep going. People will always keep going. And that is the thing that fatalists seem to not think about. It's that even if you're like, oh, well, it's all doomed and there's nothing we can do and it's inevitable that everything's gonna, okay, well, right. Well, what do you do the day after? Right? Because you're gonna keep living. You're gonna still need to eat and drink and love and play and get your needs met. So what are you going to do? And if you think about that now, you can just start doing it now. You can just start building today, right at this very second, right? Because that's literally what we need to do. And the new segment we have is the open hand and the closed fist, because we need both. We need the gardening, the building, the love, the magic, the energy. We also need the war. The fight. We need the rage, right? The way I started this episode is something that came very much directly from my spirit. And I am, above all, an artist. I'm not an organizer. But in this world, artists have been gifted, essentially, because of social media, the ability to reach so many more people than the average artist has ever been able to. And I simply will never stop repeating this, right? Artists back in the day wish they had the ability to reach 100 people, right? The crowds, even the number of people that are in this room, right? That's more than many artists got to share their work with, in their lives, the biggest crowd they might have ever had. And now, artists and creators and all that, we get to share our work with thousands through time, right? It doesn't have to be synchronous even. can be just when you get to it. And that's amazing. That is amazing. And it also, of course, gives us the responsibility of having to be organizers as well. Because I believe if you can bring people together for any reason, you have also the responsibility to try and do everything you can to have them do things that are beneficial for the wider world. Because you're creating community, right? The discourse around parasocial relationships and whether or not that is a good thing or a bad thing or whatever, well, good or bad, it's a thing, right? Good or bad, it is a thing. It exists. You have these relationships, and it's not the same thing as, you know, it's more of a relationship than you will ever have with like a Taylor Swift or with a Beyonce, right? You will never actually have the kind of relationship with them as you can with a content creator. And obviously, y'all are not invited into my fucking house and shit. Well, not all of you, but actually, and conversely, a number of you have been, right? Because we actually get to know each other and meet each other as humans. Spend time together, spend tons of time together, you know, in the Discord and in other places. So, right? The open hand. Build gardens. Link up with your people. Join our Discord. Join the House of Infinity. Get plugged in with us there. We can introduce you to people who probably live not far from you, because it is, in fact, a nationwide thing at this point, right? The open hand. Get into the love of it, right? Share the things that you are building. Start spreading joy. Plan something that you can have too much of so that you can share. One of the best things about having a garden has been being able to share things with people, ask nothing in return, and thereby just spread a little bit of joy. And also, not for nothing, those relationships that I have started, because guess what? You know, this is something that I remind people of all the time. We think that the people who see us in Meet Space know us the best. And is that true? You know, does your next door neighbor know as much about your gender identity, your political beliefs, your, like, what actually makes you tick as someone you've maybe never met in person that you talk to all the time on the internet? Probably not, right? Because it's two different kinds of ways of relating. But the thing is that the online world can overlap with the offline world much more readily, right? It can happen the other way around. Recently, some of my neighbors who I gave some cannabis to out of my garden, perfectly legal in New York State, they actually, we linked up. We were just like chatting one day, you know, just randomly, because I see them all the time out on the streets while I'm walking the dogs. And we exchanged Instagrams, and they started following me on Instagram. And so that kind of went sort of backwards of the way that it can go. But it's all the real world. You know, the offline world isn't not real, and the online world isn't not real, right? The online world is part of the real world. This is all the real world, babes. You can't escape it. It's just different ways of interacting with the real world. Mercury did not stop with a quill and ink, right? And now we're getting to this point where we're about to have, I mean, all this Aries energy is, things are rocketing off, and I'm sure you can feel it. But we're getting supportive energy from both ends, both from Uranus entering Gemini and from Pluto in Aquarius. And it's a series of sextiles and a trine that is so supportive for exactly what we need right now. And that is to upend these systems. The closed fist. We have to destroy this system. We have to divest from this system. We have to do everything we can to bring about an end to this way of life. And that's about as much as I can say directly about that. But you know. As a very wise person recently once said, and it wasn't me, all you had to do was pay us enough to live. You know? The problem is they keep taking more. They will never be satiated. Because at this point, they view us as chattel. I remind those, even the transphobes, the only reason you need to really care about who can impregnate and who can be impregnated is if you view those beings you're talking about as breeding stock. There's literally no other reason. Just think about it. They want to strongly categorize things in terms of binary sex, right? And of course they exclude and view as useless all of those who can't bear children or produce children. And they want to control the right people producing children. That's the only reason they want all these classifications. That's the reason that they classify things in terms of race. Because this empire is what? It's a white supremacist empire. So of course, they're going to want to police who gets to have children. One of the darkest things there is that's one of the reasons that they're so obsessed with Hispanic people is because they have the blood of the OG colonizers who are white people, right? It's funny that people talk about having to speak Spanish as if that is not a colonizer language. Spanish is a European language. That's a colonizer language. It's in fact one of the most prolific colonizer languages. That's why so many fucking people speak Spanish across the world, right? Which is, tell that to your average conservative and they'd be like, what do you mean? That's the Mexicans and not realizing that the reason that those people don't speak their native tongues from the land that they came from is because of colonization. And again, the closed fist. Colonization. The conquistadors did not bring women on those boats. And I will not spell out any more what that means. And how fucking dark and evil and villainous that is. And has been since the beginning. Since the inception of all of Western society. It's all been evil. Always. Always. The Epstein files are just a continuation of fucking Cristobal Colon. Right? Who was the worst of the worst. Francisco Pizarro, who was the worst of the worst. They elevated their worst people. Their most rapacious. Their most villainous. And sent them to do the work of destroying cultures, homogenizing all around the world. And we are at the precipice of undoing so much of that with the help of Iran. But we're at the precipice of helping undo that. But back to the open hand, we got to do that through building. Because the destruction is going to happen by itself. They've ensured that. They've made sure that the destruction is going to happen. We got to build. But also be ready to fight. Because you never know when you will be called upon to fight. Perhaps literally for your life. Perhaps literally for the life of somebody you care about. I am so grateful to get to share this time with you as tough as it is, as rough as it is, right? Mars is viewed as a malefic because, who likes fighting all the time? And war, right? But at its best, that Mars instinct don't take no shit. And it leaves behind only what is authentic. And that's worth so much. That an authentic life is something that we've never really experienced, except for brief little shining moments like during the lockdown era of the pandemic, where we got to decide on our own days for a change. You remember that? And yes, there was stuff we couldn't do and it was just terrible to have to be in the house all the time, whatever. But think about that. Think about how little of our own lives we get to actually dictate. I want to share something with you that I'm going to be the keynote speaker at something called Building Beloved Community Beyond the Binary. If you know how to contact me, I am not going to be sharing the info on the open internet, but please do link up with me. Go to my Linktree, find me, even DM me, and I'll give you the information. I would love it if the folks here, and you can share it with your friends and your other smaller networks. It's going to be by Zoom. It'll be available by Zoom all across the nation, and I know I could not get them to not do it on Zoom. It is what it is for this particular time. Y'all know how I feel about Zoom because it is literally the feds. But this is something I'm really excited about, and it's my first time being a keynote speaker. So I would love to have your support, and I'm really looking forward to it. And Mistrix and I are putting together an excellent visual program, like we do, in order to make it the most exciting that it can be. It's going to be this Saturday live at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And there will be like a keynote and then a deeper keynote afterwards. And if you are on my Patreon, I will be sharing the title of each of them. It's pretty fucking good, if I do say so myself. I'll pat myself on the back, not literally, because I hurt my back a little bit. But don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Gardening's tough work. You know, you gotta get into it. So, for now, we're going to be saying goodbye, good night to you. Not goodbye, just good night. Thank you, as always, to our excellent contributors, the wise and wonderful Worm, the brilliant Bones, and the amazing Alice of Alice Pope Astrology, and, of course, my masterful and excellent companion and co-collaborator, Mistrix. And, of course, thank you to all of you for being here. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Good night, y'all. Much love.